All right, hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well. This is Rudy. Hey, I'm going to talk about a variety of different things today, and I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to try to make a 15-minute video because I'm only limited to 15 minutes, and then to go to 15 minutes, go to 15 and like 40 seconds, 15 minutes and 40 seconds, and then have to start all over again. So that's exactly what's just happened to me, but we're going to try it again, and I'll try to speak a little faster. So I'll probably title this, It's My Job, or It's Not My Job, or I'm Just Doing My Job, or I Am Not My Job. But before I get into that, I wanted to provide a quick review to The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith by Pastor Carl Gallups. You know, I was reading Mickey Booth's book, and she's written a great book about her experiences with the Obama ineligibility battle, and it's a great book, and I'm going to get back to that. I'm over halfway done, but this book right here is one of my passions, Christian apologetics, and so I wanted to read this as well, and I recommend both books very heavily. I think Mickey Booth goes hand in hand with Jerome Corsi's Where Is the Birth Certificate, and she has done an outstanding job at documenting her efforts in the ineligibility cause, and documenting all of the details around that and her experiences and how she's overcoming those experiences. And this book right here by Pastor Carl Gallups, The Magic Man in the Sky, I think is very applicable to the times that we live in. He's done a great job, and you know, for those of you that actually read it, you'll understand what I mean when I say you are in a helicopter. You know, when you get an answer like that, you are in a helicopter. That's like, you know, very typical of some of the responses that we get back from the secular world. They might be technically right, but they're not taking into consideration the bigger picture of things. Pastor Carl Gallups also provides a simple and logical proof that God exists. And I hope that it's received by many in the secular world that have scales on their eyes. I often wonder, you know, how come people don't see the obvious evidence that God exists? And Pastor Gallups has laid it out in such a way that, you know, you would just have to be absolutely blind or willingly ignorant to avoid the truth that he brings out in this book. I love his fish in the pond example and the analogies that he gives, so you have to read it and understand the fish in the pond analogy. And I love his stance on evolution, and he's absolutely right. And you know, the challenges with evolution, and that evolution is not settled science, no matter how much they tell you that it is. So let me just share with you one example about I'm just doing my job, and I want to share with you, go into that in a little bit details, but the example that I want to give, and I think it applies to religious people and atheist people as well, and I'll try to share why I think that, is Terry Lakin. I want to give the Terry Lakin example, and that is, Terry Lakin is a righteous man of God. He's in an interracial marriage. He was in the active military for Army for 15 years as a physician. He was lieutenant colonel on the verge of being promoted to full-blown colonel, and he became aware of the Obama ineligibility issue, and he made a decision that he's going to keep his oath to the Constitution of the United States. Now, my brother was a Marine, and my father was a Marine, and I've always heard about the brotherhood in the military. One for all for one. We're not leaving anybody on the battlefield. That you couldn't get stronger than the brotherhood of the military. And, you know, just using my brain and what I knew about the military beforehand, I thought that the military would never let one of their own, Terry Lakin, go down like he did and get put in a kangaroo court and get sent to prison for 6. I thought that would never happen. And what shocked me as I watched them interview the jurors for his trial is the coldness and the just the absolute animosity that they seem to have for Terry, who was a 15-year Army physician, been to active combat multiple times, and had served his country righteously for 15 years. And I'll never forget one of the questions one of the ladies was asked in the jury box was, will I follow my orders? She said it in such a sarcastic, snooty way, like, I follow my orders. Like Terry's not following his orders, right? And they brought a couple up on the witness stand too, and I remember this was a, you know, Leave It to Beaver looking couple, a white couple, and she was saying, well, when Terry took his stand and didn't go as the Army called him to go, you know, back to battle, right? that it forced my husband to go and it ruined our plans to have a baby. And because Terry did that, we couldn't have a baby like we wanted to because my husband had to deploy in Terry's place. I'm like, man, I wanted to puke. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, that these people were turning on their own brother like this. And it's like, I was incomprehensible to me that these fellow military men and women were up there witnessing against Terry like they did. And I got to thinking about it, and I've talked with a friend of mine named Alfred, and it's like, I want to share this with you, and you tell me if you think if I'm on track. When a military man sees somebody like Terry take a righteous stand and like say, I'm going to keep my oath to the Constitution, Obama's not eligible, I'm going to invite my own court-martial because I think Obama should have to show his birth certificate. And at the time he didn't show it, right? Because he didn't have it. He had to create it later as a forgery. But at the time he didn't have his birth certificate. The military man that's sitting right beside Terry has a decision to make. He can say, well, Terry, I see what you're doing, and it's righteous, and you're forsaking your future financial career. You're forsaking possibly being thrown in prison. Your family, could even go against you, and you're doing all of this. Why? Why? Because the president is ineligible, and you took an oath to the Constitution, which says that Article 2, Section 1, our president must be natural born. So this military man who's sitting right beside Terry has to either decide to have the same amount of courage as Terry and do the right thing, or he has to bring Terry down. He has to call him a traitor. He has to call him a coward. He has to say that he's Looney Tunes, right? Because if they don't attack Terry and if they don't bring him back down, then they have to come to grips with the fact that they are a coward, right? And that's ultimately the decision that they have to make. And so that's why Terry was attacked so much by his fellow military men and women. And the same type of argument can be made regarding those who believe in God and those who don't. If you stand up righteously like Carl Gallups does and wrote a book and put forth an argument that God exists, the atheist community that this book is targeted to, right, to go and make disciples for Christ, has a decision to make. They can see the logic in the book and they can say that there's a lot of truth here, but if there is truth, I'm going to be accountable for my life. There's going to be a God that has created me, that has given me my most precious gift, which is free will, the ability to make decisions and to be me, not a puppet, but to actually be me. And if I come to grips with that, I'm going to be responsible for how I acted in my life to a higher authority. Now, either they can accept that and accept the Bible and accept the words of God, right? Or they can try to tear it down. They can say, no, it doesn't exist. That's Looney Tunes. There's no way that there's a God. We're all just here by accident. We're not held accountable for our life. I get my morals from my society and from my upbringing, and I'm a good person even without God. See, that's the same sort of mentality that they use to tear down the belief in God. They use the military men and women turned on Terry Lakin because he stood up for righteousness, and that's what happens in a society that has been driven so far off track from righteousness, is that they tear down those who stand up and speak for truth and righteousness. I think it was George Orwell, if I'm not mistaken, that said speaking the truth in a time of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. And that's exactly what's going on. When people like Terry Lakin or Carl Gallups or Pastor Manning or Mickey Booth or Jerome Corsi, I could go on, stand up and speak truth, they get attacked. Because if they're speaking truth, the rest of us look bad, and we can't have that. And so I wanted to share that, and then also I wanted to share a quick experience that happened this weekend. And I want to do justice to this, but this past weekend my mother-in-law died, who I knew since I was 17 years old. So, that's 28 years. I've known her for 28 years. And we're having the viewing tonight, and we're having the funeral tomorrow. But she died in her sleep, and she was married to my father-in-law for over 50 years. It would have been 51 years in June. And she was a great woman. She loved her grandchildren. She loved her children. Her whole life was devoted to her family. And it's a great loss. And so if you're a Christian and you're watching this video, I would ask that you keep my father-in-law, her grandchildren, and her daughter in your prayers, because they now have a huge void in their family. But what I want to quickly say, and I don't have enough time to go into the details that I would like, and this happened with my wife as well when she died. But let me share with you guys what to expect, because I think it's atrocious. When my wife died back in 2009, December of 2009, the police came in, and we had called the police before. We had said that they sent my wife home to die. She has a do not resuscitate order. We want to let you guys know, right? And so there's not going to be any issues. And so we let the fire department know, we let the police know, and basically my wife's chemotherapy and radiation doctor wrote a do not resuscitate, and she came home to die. And her mother and me stayed with her, and she had visiting relatives all during that time as well. And the day she passed away, the police came in the house and they confiscated all her pain medication. They walked around the place like they owned the place. They questioned us like all of these questions about when was the last time she was at the doctor. They treated me as if I was a criminal. They gave her mother the 3rd degree, and there's not enough ugly words in the dictionary for me to say right now about how I felt about them coming into our house that day and treating us the way they treated us. And because, you know, I had just lost my wife, right? I'd been known her since 26 years, and they had no sensitivity. All they knew was they had a job to do, and they had to do their job. The same thing happened when my mother-in-law passed away, who was with me at the time my wife passed away, my first wife. And when she passed away, the cops came into the house. They gave my father-in-law the 3rd degree, and they walked around the place like they owned the place, and they treated everybody like criminals, and they said, get out of the room. You can't even be in the same room. So if you wanted to go in the room and say a prayer, they won't let you do that, right? You got to get out of the room. And I told them that they were scum. I just said to their face, you guys are scum. And their response back to me was, well, we're just doing our job. I said, the Nazis had a job to do too. That doesn't make it right. And so my thought that I would like to end this video on, first of all, if you ever have a loved one who dies at home, expect to be treated like absolute crap by the cops. I know there are some good cops, but I very rarely meet them. Right? Expect to be treated like crap by the cops if you have a loved one who dies at home. And just because it's your job don't mean it's right. And the other angle of that, there's like two sides to the coin. Sometimes it is people's job and they don't do it. Was it Terry Lakin's job to stand up for the eligibility and to go to prison? No, it wasn't his job. Is it Pastor Manning's job? Well, he is a preacher and he is a leader in his community and he's doing his job. Okay? Is it Jerome Corsi's job? Well, he's just a regular citizen. He's trying to promote the eligibility issue, and I think he's putting his life on the line. So he's doing more than his part. Is it Ron Paul's job? Yes, Ron Paul is a defender of the Constitution, and he ain't doing his job, right? All he's doing is he's doing what's safe and convenient. And you say, well, you know, he can't prove, and this is a toxic issue. The Obama's eligibility is. I don't care if it is a toxic issue. Ron Paul needs to show some leadership. And so, just because it's your job, don't mean it's right. Like the policemen who come over and treat you like crap when you have a loved one that dies. And then we also have the other side of the coin, where there are some people that it is their job to stand up for truth and righteousness, like Ron Paul, and to speak out on the eligibility issue, and he ain't doing nothing. So we got cowards on one hand, justifying their cowardly actions by saying it's their job, and we got cowards on the other hand who say it's not their job, but it is their job. So your job has nothing to do with it. I would say just do what's right, no matter what your job is, and let God sort out all the details. Just do what's right and let God sort out all the details, and don't be worried so much about if it's your job or not. Anyway, that's my 15 minutes for the day. God bless every one of you. And Pastor Gallup's Magic Man in the Sky, I highly recommend it.